The University of Miami has landed a quarterback. I repeat, the University of Miami has landed a quarterback. He goes from Great Dane to Miami Hurricane. Reese Poffenbarger. Welcome to the
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, your host. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. Thank you so much to the everydayers for joining us and making us your first and second listen today. This is a breaking news emergency episode. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts, and we are available free on YouTube. We're part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com and use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. So there had been a lot of buzz and rumors over the weekend that Albany quarterback Reese Poffenbarger, who was an FCS All-American this past year, a lot of rumors that he was down in South Florida visiting. Those rumors turned out to be true. Poffenbarger was in town, got a chance to spend some time around Miami's program and around Miami's coaches. And on early Monday afternoon, Reese Poffenbarger announced his commitment to the University of Miami. Now, I don't want anyone to overreact or underreact to this addition, right? I don't want you to overreact because Reese Poffenbarger coming in, whatever playing time he gets next year and the year after that, he's got to earn it, right? He's not coming in to be the surefire starter. He's not being handed the starting job. He's coming in to compete. Coming in from an FCS program, you bet your butt he's going to embrace that competition, and he's going to have a chip on his shoulder because he knows what certain fan bases and rival fan bases will be saying about him, that who is this guy? Who's Reese Poffenbarger? He knows he's got to come in and prove himself. And I also, you guys remember a couple weeks ago when the report came out that Ja'Carri Brown, well, less than a week ago, when the report came out that Ja'Carri Brown would not be entering the transfer portal and he's going to stick with Miami. He talked about wanting to compete for playing time. So Ja'Carri knows he's going to have to compete with Emory Williams, who knows he's going to have to compete with Ja'Carri and Reese Poffenbarger and Judd Anderson, who's coming in. So I don't want anyone to overreact to say, well, Miami missed out on Cam Ward, but now they're bringing in Reese Poffenbarger to be the starter. He's going to have to try and earn that on the field. I also don't want people to underreact and just make a lazy argument that, oh, now Miami's getting guys from Albany. Like, who is this kid? He's terrible. How come he wasn't recruited out of high school by any serious programs? Trust me, take some time, study Reese Poffenbarger, watch his tape, read about the young man. There's a lot of potential there. I appreciate this comment from BJC. Thank you so much. He says, we keep saying we need someone with experience. How does Ja'Carri get it if we don't play him like a college grad looking for a job but need experience? Well, here's the thing. Again, Ja'Carri Brown is going to be competing with Poffenbarger, competing with everyone else. So these guys are all trying to develop. Another reason why you add a guy like Reese Poffenbarger is, and we're going to talk about whether or not Miami is still trying to add another quarterback in the portal. But for argument's sake, let's say they don't. You've now got 4 scholarship quarterbacks to go through spring football to take you into fall camp. Most serious college football programs have at least 4 scholarship quarterbacks. Had Miami not added Poffenbarger, if you were talking about maybe having just 3 guys in the spring, and we're not positive that Emory Williams would be completely healthy come spring football. I know Mario Cristobal said like 2 days after his injury that we expect him to be healthy for spring. I don't know if anyone can say that for sure after he's broke his arm in that Florida State game. So you're talking about 2 to 3 scholarship quarterbacks for spring. That's like a bare minimum. So adding somebody is really, really important. Let's talk about Reese Poffenbarger. FCS All-American this past year, was FCS Rookie of the Year his first year at Albany, which was 2022. this past season for the Great Danes, they got to the FCS semifinals in that tournament. This season, he threw for 3,614 yards, 36 touchdown passes to 13 interceptions. So he did throw double-digit INTs, but he led the FCS in passing yards and in touchdown passes. In 2 years in Albany, he combined for 60 touchdown passes with 17 interceptions. He's a career 60% passer so far. You'd obviously love some development, continued improvement with the accuracy. But honestly, folks, if you actually look at the charts of where he throws the football, you can kind of understand why Poffenbarger is a 60%er, because he takes a ton of deep shots. And actually, from a deep ball standpoint, completes a very high percentage of those deep shots, but that does hurt the overall average. One of the reasons why he's a 60% career passer and not, say, a 70%er, because he is the opposite of a dinker and dunker. He's a gunslinger. He comes in a little bit on the shorter side at 6 feet tall, 205 pounds. The 24/7 Sports Transfer Rankings Council gives him a 3-star grade as a transfer, an 86 score. He also, something that I like about Poffenbarger, this is very evident when you watch him on tape, in addition to the fact that he's very aggressive, throws a lot of deep balls, he is very mobile. He scrambles well. He runs pretty well. He scored 5 rushing touchdowns this past year. He extends plays. That's something really, really important. He's pretty comfortable maneuvering inside and out of the pocket, and he throws very well on the run. His balls, his deep balls when he's off his back foot and on the move tend to be pretty accurate and pretty electric. So those are some good things about Reese Poffenbarger. And according to Pro Football Focus, he's strong on his deep balls. He's got a 90.6 grade on 20-plus yard passes thrown at least 20 yards through the air. He completed 35 of 103 of those for 1,321 yards with 21 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That's on his deep balls. So, again, I do believe that Reese Poffenbarger was brought in to compete. He's not going to come in with a sense of entitlement. He's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to want to earn his place in the quarterback room. So that's what we're looking at with Reese Poffenbarger. Greg says he's going to be a scout team quarterback. A couple things about this to remember. When you bring in a guy from the FCS level, and again, I know a lot of people want to turn up their noses like an FCS quarterback. What is this nonsense? 2 years ago, Cam Ward was an FCS quarterback, right? I mean, it's not to say am I saying Reese Poffenbarger is Cam Ward? No, do not misquote me on that. But I am saying you can take players from the FCS level, and it doesn't mean they can't turn into something at the Power 5 level. I was having a conversation with our pal, the Truth Teller, who's going to be on with us tomorrow on Truth Teller Tuesday. And he reminded me that, hey, you've had quarterbacks who come from the FCS and make an impact in the Power 5. He also reminded me that Kurt Warner was working at a grocery store, and he's in the Hall of Fame now. So you never know when you're going to find quarterbacks. I appreciate Frederick, who says, Donno, this young man reminds me of Baker Mayfield when he was at Oklahoma. Freddie, you took the words right out of my mouth, man. There's definitely, just in the style of game, there's definitely some Baker Mayfield there. And Baker Mayfield, by the way, didn't start in the FCS, but he did start as a walk-on. Baker Mayfield started his career as a walk-on. There's also a little bit in his game that reminds me of Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. Not the pro version of Johnny Manziel, but the college version of Johnny Manziel. That's the way that Reese Poffenbarger plays, okay? So, again, folks, if we take the quarterback room for what it is now at the University of Miami, Jakari Brown, Emory Williams returning, 6'7" true freshman Judd Anderson coming in from high school. You add Reese Poffenbarger to this room. Competition is the big word that I'm throwing out there. And that's one of the reasons why I don't want anyone to overreact or underreact to adding Reese, because Reese is not being handed the starting job. He's coming in to compete. Is there a chance we never see Reese start a game at Miami? Sure, there's a chance of that. Is there a chance he wins the starting job before the Florida Gators game on August 31st? There's a chance of that as well. Now, something important that I want to get to here, because it is being reported and perhaps being misreported by some that the buck stops with Poff, that the quarterback search is over. Miami found their guy. We're done. We're heading into 2024. This is what we got. I don't necessarily think that is being reported accurately. So I want to talk about the latest here. And by the way, if you're in here watching us live, Send me your thought. Here's the thing. Hurricane Patriot. Like, how can you say that either? Absolutely no chance Poffenbarger wins the start. Like, how do you know that? Like, how do you know what he's going to come in here and do in spring football and fall camp? Absolutely no chance he starts. Like, some of you just think you know everything. And I'm not telling you he's going to start, but he's going to get an opportunity to compete. Same thing with Jakari Brown and Emory Williams. And who's to say that, who's to say you can definitely predict which one of these guys is going to rise to the occasion and win that starting job? So, folks, we're not done yet. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this live breaking news emergency episode. Reese Poffenbarger is a Miami Hurricane. Keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. I already know you're keeping it locked to FanDuel. We got Michigan and Washington tonight. We got NFL wildcard, super wildcard weekend coming up. There is so much to do and so much action to be had at FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapped up, but there's still time to get in on the action at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab, which is kind of cool. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's all one word. FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making this breaking news episode of Locked On Canes your first listen or your second listen today. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. And, I already see that these some Florida State fans in here laughing at Miami. You guys signed Poffenbarger. Well, we'll see. We'll see what Reese Poffenbarger turns into. I can tell you that my understanding for the past several days has been Poffenbarger is someone that Shannon Dawson has scouted, and I think Shannon specifically thinks that Poffenbarger has ideal characteristics to run his offense. I know some of you are down on Dawson, so that may not make you feel any better about the situation to hear that, but still, I think it is important, whether you love a coordinator or hate a coordinator. Personally, I think the jury is still out on Dawson. I'm giving Dawson an opportunity here because we also don't know maybe how much Mario Cristobal was micromanaging the offense this past year. But I do think it is important that if you're rolling with a coordinator and they identify talent, especially at the quarterback position, because you're the conductor of the whole orchestra, that you're able to select somebody who you feel like fits your offense. And Poffenbarger, he did what he did at Albany. The offensive line play looked pretty darn poor from the condensed games and the highlights that I watched. Poff's offensive line with the Great Danes did not do him any favors. The protection was not very good. His center couldn't snap a lick, like a lot of snaps in the dirt that he had to deal with, and he dealt with most of those pretty well. So Reese Poffenbarger, whatever playing time he's able to earn at Miami, he would have the benefit of playing behind what we feel is going to be one of the best offensive lines in the ACC once again. Miami's got a deep running back rotation. They're going to have a deep tight end room. However much they choose to use them in the passing game is yet to be seen. But the tight end room looks pretty good heading into next year with my guys Riley Williams, Elijah Lofton coming in, Elijah Arroyo. There's a lot to like about Miami's tight end rotation, and I still think Miami could benefit from adding some more experienced receivers, but you do have Xavier Restrepo back, ACC's leading receiver, and ACC's second leading receiver, Jacoby George, is back as well, and there's a lot of young talent in that room. So Poffenbarger, again, however much he's able to get on the field at Miami, would have obviously a better supporting cast than the one he had at the FCS level. And we would also find out how much of the success that he had at the FCS level, how much of a jump can he make at the Power 5 level? Better teammates, but also much better opponents, right? The windows to complete passes get a lot smaller. The coverage gets a lot better. The pass rushers are more talented, even though he would have a better offensive line protecting him. So that's one of those things, right? That, hey, if it really works out with Poffenbarger, maybe he's the next Baker Mayfield. If it doesn't work out, maybe he's the next Tate Martell. More than likely, it's going to be somewhere in between. But okay, so Pete Thamel from ESPN. he's the one who broke the news, I believe, that Poffenbarger was committed to Miami. And in Thamel's story about it, he stated, thus ends Miami's search for a quarterback. I don't believe that to be accurate. I respectfully disagree with that take. Thus ends Miami's search for a quarterback. I believe the Miami Hurricanes would still be open to adding someone like Taulia Tagovailoa if he were to become available. Because you have to think about a couple things that are working from a Miami's perspective here. A lot of us were kind of frustrated with the way the Cam Ward saga went down, not only because Miami didn't land Cam Ward, but it looked like from the outside looking in that they may have missed out on other quarterback targets because they were waiting for Cam Ward. I don't believe Miami wants that to happen with Taulia Tagovailoa. When they're waiting on the NCAA to potentially clear him to play another year, there's no timetable on that. There is no timetable on the NCAA's decision. That could come out 3 minutes from now. It could come out 3 weeks from now. Like, we don't know if and when the NCAA is going to clear him or when they're going to decide on his waiver. So Miami had to make a move, right? Whether you like it or not, Miami felt like they had to make a move because, again, you wanted to have at least 4 scholarship quarterbacks for spring football and fall camp. So Miami felt like they had to make a move here, okay? Also, the situations for Poffenbarger and Taulia Tagovailoa are so different. I believe Miami would take both if they have the opportunity to do so. Poffenbarger, obviously he's got 2 years of starting experience at Albany, but he's still on the younger side. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining, and he's unproven. High ceiling, low floor type of guy coming from an FCS program. With Tagovailoa, it's completely different. 4 years as a starter in the Big Ten. He's got a high floor, much higher floor than Poffenbarger, probably a lower ceiling than Poffenbarger and Ja'Carri Brown and Emory Williams for that matter, because we have a pretty good idea who Taulia Tagovailoa is at this point. I don't know how much more evolution there would be at the college level, but a much higher floor. So the mission statement here stays the same, that if Miami believes that if they find an experienced, somewhat steady, graduate transfer that can right the ship for 1 year while you get guys like Ja'Carri Brown and Williams and Poffenbarger a little bit more ready to take over in the 2025 season, that would be ideal, because Miami does believe they've got a really good roster beyond the quarterback position, that you've got a lot of talent on the offensive line and on the defensive line and at linebacker. Got some good talent at running back and wide receiver. So if the belief there is that you're basically experienced, steady quarterback play away from being a contender for the ACC, then you try to find that guy for a year. So despite what Pete Thamel may have said, I personally don't believe that Miami is necessarily done adding quarterbacks. I do believe Miami would be willing to add Taulia Tagovailoa if he clears that waiver. If you say Taulia has a lower ceiling than any of the 3 we have, why would we want him? Because he's got a much higher floor, Willie. That's it. Like, when I talk about ceiling, I'm talking about guys who have 3 to 5 starts under their belt who are still really developing, but they have a much lower floor. Like a guy like Taulia, who's 23, 24 years old, for him, the floor would be more important than the ceiling. That's why I'm talking about adding him. So people are saying we need to come up with a nickname for Poffenbarger. I keep thinking about Reese's Poffenbarger Puffs is one that keeps going through my mind. Can you smell what the Poff is cooking? I just call him Poff. Like, honestly, when this dude gets here and I get to cover him at the indoor facility and talk, I'm just going to say, hey, Poff, how you doing? So that's going to be the one for me. I mean, I guess people could just call him Reese. You could make a T-shirt. He could be endorsed NIL from Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. There's got to be something we can do there. Oh, man. I'm not even sure what Mob Jones is referring to. These people don't understand football. Well, listen, you got to remember, Mob. We're talking about the YouTube live chat. 78% of the people in there are trolling. Like, you may be part of the 22% who's in there to try to find some enlightened conversation. Most of the people in there who are, it's mostly Miami fans and Florida State fans arguing back and forth on the live chat every day. Bradenton Kane says Donno could sell ice to an Eskimo. Okay. What kind of show would you, I don't know if this is the same person who was commenting on my YouTube video yesterday, talking about the potential quarterback options. Like, how do you want me to do a show every day? Do you want me to come on here and just say, guys, everything sucks? This program is dead. You remember that Sports Illustrated headline in like 1991 that said they should cancel the football program. Do you want me to start the show every day saying completely hopeless? We can't coach. We can't play. We'll never be good again. Cancel the program. Am I disappointed that Miami missed out on players like Cam Ward and Will Howard, who were the top choices at quarterback? Absolutely. I can't sugarcoat that. Now, when Miami adds a player like Poffenbarger, am I going to come on here and just be lazy and say, oh, this guy must suck because he came from the FCS? That's not my thing. I'm going to study the player. I'm going to look at what this guy does well. Does he have limitations? Probably. A little bit on the smaller side. Well, why didn't he get recruited by Power 5 programs in the first place? There are question marks there. But some of you guys are so negative. I don't know how you wake up in the morning. And honestly, if you want to watch a show talk so badly about Miami football, you should tune into that Double Fries No Integrity show where that guy's supposed to cover Florida State, but all he does is just like bitch and moan about Miami and Florida on all of his episodes. I'm going off a little bit there. Delane says, thank you. All right, I appreciate you. Tell it like it is without bashing the team. And listen, man, I bashed the team after they didn't take the knee. I bashed the team when they deserve it. All right, folks, I appreciate you. No, I guess he's not. I think he's talking about Double Fries. He's not talking about me. Biggest homer on YouTube. I mean, if I could take that prize, I will take it. I love Miami football, and I want them to win national championships again. I grew up watching that team win national championships. I was born in the 80s. I grew up watching Miami winning titles and competing for titles. There's nothing more I want than getting back to those days again. All right, my friends, Poffenbarger is a Hurricane. We'll see what happens next in the transfer portal and beyond. We will talk to you guys again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.